Joe, good to see you.
You too, Chris.
How are you?
Doing okay? How are things in your neck of the woods?
Doing well. Trying to stay out of trouble as usual.
Right on.
Bob, how are we?
Doing okay, Chris.
Sweet.
Gonna have pretty big operation on my heart this summer. Open heart surgery is scheduled this summer, but that'll get me back to 100%. And
Sweet.
so, good news, bad news, good news. So
It's good news. It's good news. If it's long-term good news, it's good news. So
long-term good news. So I'm looking forward to it.
exactly.
Good to be here. Thanks, Chris.
Awesome. Fingers crossed. I'm just gonna wait a couple of minutes here just to make sure everyone's that wants to join actually joins. Any questions since we're here? I don't want to eat up our time just by sitting around. I'm not the most handsome guy, so any questions we can tackle
here.
Chris, I got a quick question. As far as the beginning of the call, when I ask, okay, perfect. And the first part of this call is pretty basic. I'd like to get a better understanding about where you are now and where you're trying to get to in terms of your fitness. I was wondering if I should put that after and start with, okay, I should probably ask, what was it that attracted your attention about Dan and what he's been posting online that piqued your interest? Because sometimes when I talk about like, okay, what are you currently doing in terms of your fitness and where you're trying to go, they kind of want to jump right into telling me that stuff. And I feel weird being like, the first part of the call is this, but actually tell me about Dan, tell me about why you scheduled the call.
Yeah, so you can get started. So it looks like you booked with us about possibly getting some help around your fitness. Now, I should ask, what was it that attracted you to Dan? You do that, then you can be like, okay, what were you hoping to get out of this meeting? Oh yeah, I just want to find out price, blah, blah, blah. And this gives you a nice loop back into, and I'll walk you through all that for sure. And this call is pretty basic, just so you're aware. And you're right into it, nice and easy. So, and yeah, you're right in the situation question.
Okay, awesome.
Stage, to be exact.
Change that.
And even that, we're going to talk about selling with stories today, but even that frame, if we kind of like zoom out, it is a mini story by itself, because the way that we're positioning it, we're giving the idea of, before we jump into what we offer, I'd love to get an understanding of what you have done in the past in terms of growing the business, where you are today, and what are you looking to get, like your vision overall, see if there are any gaps that we can actually help with. So even in that structure, of course, it's not a full story and what we'll talk about, but we're talking about the past, we're talking about the vision, and we're talking about challenges that will come up along that path. So even that, there is a small story structure, but let's get started here, and then we can go for it, Joe.
I was just curious if this was being recorded. It
is. Cool. Yeah, I'm recording it, and we'll send it over for sure.
Appreciate it.
Now, good to see everyone. A couple of more people hopped on board. So I'm gonna take some time, talk about selling with stories, and then we'll do role plays, Q&As, and everything. But selling with stories, and we've all heard the phrase controlling the narrative, right? The news controls the narrative. The big guy, the big brother controls the narrative. In our sales calls, we control the narrative. So it always comes down to who tells the story, right? He who asks the questions and tells the stories makes decisions and gives the direction, right? And if we are the one telling the stories, we decide what the characters are. So when we are in a position where during the sales calls, we start telling stories, we decide the plots that we want to shape and what beliefs we want to seed by telling those stories. So at the end of it, I want to use stories as a vehicle for an emotion. So we're going to talk about different examples here, but essentially at the end of the day, I'm telling stories during sales to install a new belief. And beliefs are always attached with emotions. I cannot have someone accept a new belief without having an emotion attached to it. So instead of being direct and saying, hey, it's best to do this because you will make more money, that shoots resistance, as we've all discussed again and again. But when I use stories as that vehicle, it flies under the radar. And the big why is we're used to hearing stories. We were stories. Everything started as a story in our life. We're told stories as children since we had ears and the capacity to understand. It was stories. Mom went to the grocery store, she bought a lollipop, she came back, here's the lollipop, reward. So what we're doing every time we're telling a story is time travel. Like we're traveling them back into an event, into something that happened in their life, into something that they had felt. That's what's happening. That's how we're able to essentially take a skeptical lead, tell a story, and have a complete reframe around their situation. It's because we put them in a hypnotic state, which makes them essentially very open to suggestion. That's where the light bulb clicks in their mind, and they start opening up to us and being more suggestible, for lack of a better term. And let's start with the first type, which is tactical vulnerability. I think we talked about this one before, but any stages where prospects won't open up. In the solution awareness stage, I can use it, and I will talk about exactly where, and also consequence. So what's a tactical vulnerability story? When we have someone who's very close, their walls are up, we're asking probing questions, and they just won't open up. I want to deploy a tactical vulnerability story where I want to tell a story that they resonate with, but it's going to be from my personal past, right? Just to give you an example, when I was selling my services, or when I was selling seventh level training, and I have a prospect who just won't open up around their why or around their vision, I simply say, yeah, that's not a problem. And I can understand there is some hesitation on our end. May I make a suggestion? Sure. I tell the story of me starting out as a pharmacist. So I was like, it's okay to be skeptical. It's okay to be, a little bit hesitant because I was in your shoes. About 4 years ago, I was a pharmacist. I know I don't look the part, but I was a pharmacist. I was working inside a steel box, and we were producing antibiotics. And when I got started, what happened was I was seeing all those older guys going back and forth, which they were the workers inside, like they were pumping the powder, they were cooking it up, they were doing this, they were doing that in the machines. And there was a particularly older guy, seemed like he was like 75 years old. And one day I asked my manager, hey, where is this guy going to retire? He looks so old. And my manager tells me, you mean George? George is like 55. We were talking about the guy who was hunched over, white all across his face, white mustache, and it was like he was shriveled, like he was a ball of a person. But as I started noticing the other workers as well, I noticed that everyone, it was like you had sucked the life out of them. And it wasn't just that they hated their jobs. I realized that whatever they inhaled in there was rotting them inside out. And in a way, I was looking at myself in the future. So for me, being able to get out of that job, making it online, making sales work, learning how to sell so I can leave my job that was slowly killing me, was a life or death situation. So for you, Mr. Prospect, what's your why? I'm running away. I was running away from death. I was running away from having my organs rot and being 40 looking like I'm 80. But what are you running away from? So what that story is doing is obviously, so it shows vulnerability. right? And maybe as I was telling those story, you put yourselves in my shoes. Like you could visualize the guy, you could visualize the workers, you could visualize different things and maybe resonating with different pieces of your past. So what happens is that creates an environment of trust during the call itself. So just because you opened up, it makes it very hard for them not to open up. Because trust is like a handshake. Like it works both ways. You extend your hand and you either extend your hand and shake the other guy's hand, or you look like a douchebag. So it's like you're forcing them to open up. Is everyone clear on the tactical vulnerability story? And again, I can deploy it from, let's say, connecting stage. I'm just, when I connect with the prospect, if I see that they're all clammed up, rarely I will deploy it there, because typically you can get something at least. But in more sensitive stages, when we want to, raise the emotional temperature, solution awareness, consequence, we might need to use a few stories. Any questions around this? Otherwise, I'll just move on to the next one.
Yeah, Chris, I have a story. It's not as powerful as yours, but about, kind of being skinny fat my whole life, never seeing any gains in the gym.
Yeah.
Finally figuring it out after 18 years of on and off. And yeah, is that something that you should bring up just if you feel like they're not opening up enough, or is it good to throw it in there if you feel like it?
You 100% you can. 100% you can. So it will happen right before. In that case, you can do it right after the criteria question. So after you do, just to make sure that what we're doing can help, blah 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 blah, then you'll be like, and I definitely resonate with that, Joel. I was skinny fat, I don't know, for 10 years of my life. And I was, I don't want to mess up yours. I'm just saying, I was going to school, I was looking at the other guys who were really crushing it at sports, and I was the nerdy guy who was going to the gym and couldn't lift the bar. So, I resonate with, and you continue with your story, I resonate 100% what you're saying. So I guess if we were able to come in, do this, do that, what would that do for you though?
Nice, thank you.
Cool. Anyone else? And the other piece that I didn't mention is, if we don't have, let's say we don't have, or we cannot, it's impossible. Like if we sit down and for 10 minutes, we're going to find a story for you. But let's say you cannot come up with something right then and there on the call. You can use the influencer story, or you can use a family member story. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Anything else here?
Chris, just quickly, is
Yeah.
the goal of the story primarily to get them to open up, or could there be quite a few reasons why you would tell a story?
So in the tactical vulnerability story, the main purpose is to get them to open up and show more emotion, so I can get them more emotionally invested. If I see that, and in a lot of cases, if we see people that are very logistical and they dive into the numbers straight away, and you find this often with accountants, with people who are very, left-brained in terms of always around the numbers. The only way to break that frame, like the logical person's brain, is with stories. Because it's something that they haven't used to, you cannot beat them in the numbers, right? Because they will request clear ROI, and then we'll be like, okay, but you have, let's say, 20 case studies. What happens to the other 10,000 people that are your customers? And that's a game that you cannot win, right?
Yeah.
And the only way to break that frame is by telling stories.
Cool. Yeah, that's interesting.
So let's move forward to the mini case study. And by mini case study, this is something that happens pre-presentation. And how that works is very short to the point, but it's very potent. And just to give you an example, what I'll do is, let's say I ask my consequence questions and I do the, during the transition, right before the transition, what I'll do is, okay, based on what you told me, Chris, what we're doing would actually help you. And this reminds me, actually, your story is very similar to Kyla's, who was a single mother. He was working a full-time job. She wanted to spend more time with her daughter, and she couldn't because she was month to month. She learned sales, got into the program, and a couple of months she started making 20K. But anyways, that's it. I move forward. What I'm doing there is, in 2 paragraphs, I'm summarizing a quick case study that's relevant to what they just walked me through, to what I just discovered. And this is essentially, I'm visualize it as a dopamine injection, right? Like I'm injecting dopamine and I'm out. I'm in, drop the story and I'm out. And I continue as if nothing happened. So I don't make it a big deal. Nonchalantly, I hop on, oh yeah, and it just reminds me, we had Dan, similar situation, just like you, working a 9 to 5, he struggled with this, and he got into the sales training, and he was able to transition off his 9 to 5, now he's doing very well. But anyways, just like I said, what we're doing can help, so with your permission, I can walk you through how that looks like. Would that help you? I'm not getting stuck there. It's just, I'm seeding it, and I'm moving on with the presentation. But what that does is it sticks to the brain, like, right? So what will happen is, when I ask for the commitment questions and you do the mini case study stories, is you'll find, yeah, because just like you said, like, you helped Sarah just like me. You can be talking for 10 freaking minutes, and what they will remember is what you said at the top. Because it's a mini story that, again, injected dopamine in, out, you present, and you do a nice commitment question right after. So just to summarize, this is short, to the point, but potent. Any story, it doesn't have to happen in any presentation. It's just an additional boost to show them that, okay, we've done this before, easy. But again, I'm not making it a big deal. Nonchalantly, I'm coming in, yeah, a lot of clients come to us for that. I just remember, like, Dan, he was a welder, he did this, So the structure is, this person struggled with similar problem, consequences of that problem, your solution, result, you move forward. What we don't want to happen is, in that 2-paragraph story, is make our product the hero. And in any story that we'll tell, our product is not the hero, they are the hero. So if you watch Star Wars, I don't know if you've heard this before, our product is not Luke Skywalker, our product is Yoda. It's just a guide in their journey, came in, gave them some advice, they're out there, they can slay the big bad wolf, right? So we are not the knight that slays the dragon. The dragon is the problem. Big dragon here. They are the knights. They are this guy. This is your prospect. In the bridge, as they're going to slay the dragon, you are just a guide here. That's how you position it. The focus is Dan. He was struggling with this. There was this big bad dragon here, and he was breathing fire. He couldn't recommend it. Yeah, and what we did is he joined the sales training. He was able to implement some of the strategies, and he went and slayed the big bad dragon, and now he has the princess. It's not, oh, our product is amazing. Dan came to us and we together we did this. No, he did it. This guy took responsibility, and by taking responsibility and getting help, he slayed the dragon. Because you're not looking to save them, you're looking to support them. And this is the frame that you have to use in your stories as well. Everyone with me on mini case study and this idea? Cool. Failure story. The failure story is pretty simple concept. You want to expand, and this is most useful in your objection handling. When someone is resistant, you start to ask consequence questions and they start to not land and it's going nowhere. Like they're in a situation where they're fearful. The failure story will, of course, depend on what you're selling, but the really powerful one, you can Google it. It's Ed Milet back when he was selling insurance. He was like, I was selling insurance to this family and I got to think about it objection. And I tried to overcome it. I was telling them this, I was telling them that, I was trying to tell them this will protect your family, it will do this, it will do that. Couldn't sell them. Just let them go, left the house, frustrated, and went to bed. Next week, he kept on selling, visiting other families, making sales. Next week, he calls them and a relative picks up and he tells him that the whole family, the parents, got into a car accident and they died. So the kids have nothing to live on. So he realized that if he was able to overcome that objection, sign them up and put those structures in place, the kids, yes, the parents would still die, but the kids would have something to lean on. With that scenario, they had nothing. And I think he mentioned they went into a foster home because they weren't wealthy and everything. So this is a failure story that, for example, Ed can consistently use into every single next time he gets a think about it objection to give them a hard slap of reality. And it doesn't have to be, of course, this is a morbid example and everything, but it doesn't have to be the case. A simple version of it that everyone could deploy is when you're getting a think about it objection, the simplest version is you could postpone it, but may I make a suggestion? Sure. No, you're not the first person who wanted to think about it. The only challenge is what happens if you continue? I'll tell you what happens. It happened to my client, Kathy. Kathy wanted to think about it. She went away. I sent her an email. She never showed up to our follow-up call. And she came back to me five months afterwards. I get a message from her. Hey, Chris, I just gained another 50 pounds. Now, you tell me, Chris, did postponing 5 months that decision, did it make Kathy's life easier or harder? Did it make my job easier or harder? So what's going to change if we keep pushing it back? Everyone is getting what I'm dropping. Sweet. And again, failure, we can do, if we have scenarios as the first one, we can include them. Again, if we get stuck with our usual objection handling framework, this is something that you drop afterwards, right? Of course, we want to reconfirm value. We do all these different steps, but I'm giving you another tool into your arsenal. This is particularly for objection handling. Let's talk about self-belief. Self-belief stories don't have necessarily a stage, but it's more around, number one, fearful prospects. And when we ask gap questions, let's say where are you at today? I'm always bringing up fitness because it's an easy example. Where are you at today? I'm 200 pounds. Where do you want to go? 150. Okay, and with what you're doing right now, and you can be real with me, how close do you feel you are to getting there? Not close at all. If I get an answer like not close at all, and I don't know, I'm kind of hopeless. Sometimes you can get prospects just like that, who, even if you, especially if they have been burned before, people start to have, they can become super skeptical, but their confidence decays, their self-belief. So some people can start blaming the coaches, and there are ways to overcome that, but other people will blame themselves. And they're like, I just suck at this. I'm not meant for this. So what do you do in these cases? Because you cannot just tell them, hey, we'll help, because they obviously failed. And now their self-confidence is very low. Their the belief in themselves. So what we deploy is, and I have the language here, but essentially how it works, I was in a similar position like you. I needed help in saving my business, and the program was 10,000. It was a stretch, but it was do or die for me. So I called my girlfriend, now wife, and asked her, what should I do? And she told me, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? So I did it. I backed myself. And that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here talking to you right now. So the thing is, we can boil it down to two things. We make decisions from a place of, what if I fail? But where does that take us? Keeps us stuck. Or we can start making decisions where we can ask ourselves, what happens if we actually succeed? And we try, we back ourselves, and we get the result. So help me understand, Chris, when was the last time you really backed yourself? It's been a while. Okay. So what do you feel you need to do to put yourself in the best position possible, so when you go to bed tonight, you know that you've done everything you can to make getting to where you want to go a reality? So I was in exactly the same position as you, or the influencer, if we're selling another person's offer. He was in exactly the same position as you. He needed help, yada, yada, yada. Similar structure. I'm just giving you a girlfriend example here. This can be my father, my mother, a relative. You didn't have to ask no one. I asked myself, what would I do if I knew I wouldn't fail? I'm just giving you a basic structure here with, I asked someone. Of course, I'm not a fan of telling lies, of course. I'm just giving you a scenario that can happen. If we don't have a similar one, we can just say, I simply asked myself, I took a piece of paper and I asked myself, what would I do if I couldn't fail? So this is where, and this is how we inject self-belief. And if there's a part 2 to this, is when was the last time you backed yourself? In that question, you can say, well, it's been a while. Okay. Well, if I may ask, if it has worked for hundreds of our clients, what do you feel is going to hold you back from actually getting results? That summarizes self-belief. Any questions based on what I covered? Cool. Again, fearful prospects, and especially people, when you're asking the final gap question with what you're doing right now, how close do you feel you are to getting to X and Y and Z? That's where you can start deploying it. And you get answers like, yeah, I don't think I never can, because I've failed in the past. And you see the red flags of low self-confidence. Because if we don't handle it then and there, what's going to happen is we're going to get a think about it objection, and they're just going to close up. They're not going to tell us. And we can start handling it as a fear objection, and a lot of times it will help. This is just a pre-handle, like a quick story, and you don't have to. You can use this on the during the call, and you just don't mention the price because you haven't presented yet. If you do it on the back end, you do it with this structure. Everything clear? Sweet. Last but not least, and this is a category where we're talking about metaphors, analogies. This can vary. I have a couple of examples here that you can use, but metaphors, analogies, they always help. They always act as vehicles for emotions. So this is an uncertainty and avoidance of decision. So I can use language like it's completely normal that the other side doesn't make sense. And this is where they can ask, I'm not sure if you guys can get me there. They're not sure about the mechanism. They're not sure about the program. So this is a fear/uncertainty objection. So how I handle it is, yeah, it's totally normal that you're having a disconnect with seeing yourself getting there, getting to where you want to go, getting to 100K a month. And it's not your job to know exactly how you are going to get there, right? When you buy a plane ticket, you don't go to the pilot and say, hey, pilot, show me all the buttons that you're going to press. Take me a look around your cockpit, lift your seat, let me see the parachutes and everything. I want to make sure that you know for sure that you're going to take me there. It's not your responsibility. It's the pilot's responsibility to get you from where you are to where you want to go. Your only responsibility is for you to show up. Pack up your jammies, your underwear, and show up for the flight. So as long as you can do that, and as long as you can buy your ticket and show up, we'll do the rest. So are you open to showing up, doing the work so we can actually get you there? Is this sticking? Sweet. Any questions? No. Cool. Let's do another one. If they're stuck on thinking about it and let me think about it, we attack money and it goes nowhere. We open them up for suggestion. Would you be open to looking at that from a different perspective? Yeah. Okay, so suppose you drove to work every single day, and every single day you took this specific route that took you 2 hours. You didn't love the commute. And imagine someone came to you and said, what if we were able to tell you that there was a shortcut? Instead of taking you 2 hours, it would take you 30 minutes. And suppose they said, I always take this route. I hate taking it because I always take it. But I want to think about if I'm going to use your route, really. Now, would that make much sense to you if they told you that? Another example is simply the quicksand. So would you be open to looking at this from a different perspective? Yes. Okay, so suppose you're at the desert and you see a guy walking in the desert and suddenly he drops in the quicksand and the sand starts swallowing him up. Like he's sinking in quicksand as you're looking at him, and you start running towards him. You extend your hand and you tell him, hey, grab my hand, let me get you out of there. And the guy looks at you and he says, let me think about it. Now, would that make much sense to you if they told you that? Depending on the level of pain that you have extracted during the call, if you have extracted a lot of pain, you can use the quicksand because it's more of a dire situation and it aligns more to the narrative of the call. Otherwise, you can use the roads and this analogy. Questions, doubtful points, but yeah, that's pretty much it. 30 minutes in, I think we're good.
Chris, is this something that we can get a copy of?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna share it. I'm gonna share a more formalized video and maybe pump it up. I just put something together so we have something to look at.
Awesome.
You can copy paste, but I'll drop it in the comments just so you can have it. And I'm gonna email you guys when I shoot something more formalized. Cool. Biggest takeaway, if any.
These
I think,
stories, I mean,
uh,
they can make a huge difference in just if it's not going where you want it to go, you can really change the whole dynamic with these stories. So thank you, Chris. This is very helpful.
The biggest thing is it doesn't matter how silly the story is. This is a lot of people, they look at this and they're like, well, this is a silly story. The thing is, when people, they are triggered, right? The resistance is up here, their emotions don't make sense, right? They can get angry, let's say, with all those questions, right? And you inject a story, it's like you hypnotize them right then and there, because someone is telling you a story. Like, you cannot get angry at the person telling you a story. So you shift emotions right away. It's very disarming. They expect you to fight back. And instead, you're telling a story, you give them an analogy. Right? So it switches the whole vibe of the call. Because who tells stories? Who tells them stories? Their parents, their friends. It's not a stranger for sure. Richard, I think you were about to say something.
yeah, I was just going to jump in and say it was interesting because I just doing the course. I remember Jeremy saying telling stories wasn't huge on the influence factor, I think, or the persuasion factor. So, but it's interesting to see. I think it's slightly different how you've got this and positioned these stories at certain points. So it's just another thing to add to the toolbox.
The biggest mistake with stories, sorry to jump in, but this is good stuff. The biggest thing is when people hear stories in sales, they assume our story as the company, how we got started. They couldn't give two shits.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the kind of stories that Jeremy talks about. When we jump into the call. Hey, Richard, good to see you here. I know you joined us to learn about sales training. Let me tell you, when I got started with this company, I didn't know about sales. I was 20 years. I got 2 MBAs. It's a story, but it's an irrelevant story. I'm just doing it to show credibility, but it doesn't work because it doesn't resonate with the other person.
Yeah, I've had it happen to me. I was like, I don't care. But
I don't care, dude.
What I like is you're using it, and I can see how it works when you're using it for a specific reason at a specific point. Like, you're not just telling a story for a story's sake. There is a reason behind that. I think that's just super smart. I hope, I'm keen to just figure out my own stories, but two, when to deploy them.
Yeah. And the biggest thing is just to stroll right into it, not to make it a big deal. Like because a lot of people, they're telling a story and they expect like fireworks from the other person. No, you just drop it. You don't have to expect applause. You drop the story and this sinks into their subconscious right here. So when you continue, you walk them through, let's say, the benefits of your product, you start presenting, but they're thinking about Sally, who was a single mother or whatever, an organization who sold lemons, and you help them sell more lemons.
Yeah.
Because it's visual, it's something that they can hear, smell, touch in their mind.
Mm.
That's why
Yeah.
it sticks.
Mm. Yeah, really cool.
And Chris, I was going to just mention there's a company called Story Brand, or a book called Story Brand.
Yeah.
And where he talks about that, the same thing you just said, you're not Luke, you're Yoda. The
Exactly.
hero is the prospect, the customer, and how to shape all your marketing around that story, that the prospect is the hero.
Exactly.
I found
And
it to be a good book, Story Brand.
yeah, it's a good book. And you have different archetypes of stories and different marketing stories, you can say. Just a quick example can be the mad scientist story, but that's more for marketing purposes, where in your case, Bob, you can say something like, I had clients 20 years ago, I gave them the right things to say, but it wasn't working. So year by year, kept trying. I went to all the seminars, I bought all the courses, I did this and I did that. And I had a big switch. It wasn't about what you say, it's about what you ask. That's a crazy that's a mad scientist story, because supposedly you did through all those experiments to
Right.
find out your methodology.
I like that.
So there are
That
different
is what I
types.
did. It is exactly what I did anyway. So it's a great story. Thank you.
It's something that you can use for your marketing for sure. David, I can't hear you. No. No. Yeah, just fix it and come back. What else? Did I interrupt anyone?
Do we always use stories, Chris, and metaphors, or just in
Like,
those situations?
I like to use them as needed. You can always use like if you have, let's say, 5 case studies at your arsenal, turn them into mini stories, and depending on the avatar that you see join a call, you can say, okay, I'm gonna use that one that resonates.
And like, is this like before you tell them about the solution?
Yeah. Right before you drop into the presentation, you can say something like, yeah, that's really all I wanted to hear, Chris, because from what you're telling me, it sounds like what we're doing would help you. And this reminds me, actually, we had a guy, I believe his name was Bob. He had challenges he was hopping on Zoom calls, but he was getting all those objections. And, you came in, we gave like a couple of tools, like think about it, money objection. He started, sales start popping in. But anyways, you're done.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And you start presenting. No, still can't hear you.
Hey, Chris.
Hey.
I wanted to ask you, I know these are personalized for the situation on the call, but I was wondering of other use cases like a VSL video on a landing page. Would you advise using any of these 5 in there without knowing too much for personalization?
Okay, sorry. Now it works.
You're good. Yeah, you can. You can use stories literally. Let's say I'm being facetious, but you can use stories. Yeah, in your video sales letters. It would depend. Like an example would be the mad scientist story that I told Bob. The origin story, which is kind of like my pharmacy story, you can use it in the VSLs. To create trust, but you wouldn't go as long in a VSL because you don't want to make it irrelevant. You'll just drop it in, move forward. But stories can be, when it comes to the marketing, stories become part of your brand because that's how you differentiate. Instead of just selling, I don't know, and another lead gen guy. Okay, this guy was a failed pharmacist who did this, who did that, weird guy, accent. So these are different touch points that people can remember you from.
That makes sense. Thank you.
David.
Yeah, now it's working. So I have a question, but not regarding the stories. Is it okay?
So good. Yeah.
Sometimes you're on a call, it's like a 45 minute call, but they talk a lot. Like, so what do you do with them? Like, they just keep talking and they never stop. So at the end, you come to the presentation, you're just rushing it. Or like after 20 minutes, 30 minutes, you just run out of time.
Yeah.
And you didn't do anything because they're talking. How do you like manage these people?
You have to take control. So the moment that you see a talker, you have to double down on first vocal cues. Vocal cues as they're talking. Okay. Right. Now walk me back. So essentially with those vocal cues, as they're talking on the background, you establish a rhythm. Your rhythm. So that gives you openings that you can interject. So instead of me being silent and waiting for them to listen, and then, whoa, now that's rude, right? Because kind of like you had them on a time and then you hopped on to interrupt them. Instead, what you do is, okay, right. Sure. So, doom, interrupt.
Just jump in and tell them like the next thing.
Yeah, so whoa. You said something important there. Walk me back. What did you mean? Simple probing question.
Yeah, so but like every time I ask them again, like something, like situation and then consequence, and every answer is like too long.
So that can be a consequence of you not being precise with your questions, but that was what I was getting towards. When you see that they're constantly talking, you have to be on top of them with your questions. So the moment that you have what you want, you jump with the next one right away.
Okay. Something else, I don't know.
So your rhythm with your questions, it has to be faster with those prospects. With those, because you'll find some people talk very slow, and you cannot rush them too much. But with those, you have to rush them. You have to kind of like punch them down your process, so they're following along.
Okay.
And if you see that they keep talking, and apologize, David, I'm being rude today, but I follow just a specific process just to determine if we can help you or not. So if we can stay focused around my questions, that it will help me make my life very easy. Is that okay with you? So you have to have that conversation. After you do 2 to 3 tactful interrupts and they don't get the message, you do something like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. I apologize, David. I apologize. That's what you do until they shut up, take control, and continue.
Chris, one more thing. If do you have like a video on YouTube or anything about like if our company wants to do like sales, like calling and like follow-ups and like all of this stuff, but for companies like all the B2B and all of this stuff, do you have any video about it?
Like cold calling?
Cold calling, talking to like contractors in all of these companies.
So what do you remind me? What is this for the?
So this one is about the fitness equipment.
Okay, so this is for the fitness equipment, and you want to call B2B companies to do what? To partner up with them?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. You approach it, you follow your cold calling framework. So you're gonna have a problem statement.
There was like chapters at the end for B2B,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it wasn't very specific. So I just followed the cold calls strategies.
The cold call strategies, you're gonna come up with a problem statement. And you're gonna, in your cold calls, you're typically going to run them from connecting stage and a little bit of problem awareness. And see if they have, in your case, it would be any hidden gaps around finding quality equipment to sell to their clients.
Deal.
Cool.
And last thing before I close, sorry guys,
You're good.
is 40% closing rate a good thing for sales from calls? That's for the e-commerce world.
It depends. Closing rate is the easiest metric to manipulate because I can reject, like everyone that I see from the form that they're a tariff kicker, I can reject them and close 90%. I can and make, let's say, 20,000 a month, and I can take everyone, close 10% and make 30,000 a month. Who's a better salesperson?
If you make more money.
That's
But
that's
like
what
if you have a lot of calls a day, it's with work, so it's not, if it's not a full-time thing.
look, it's not bad, right? It's not what I'm suggesting. I'm just saying that don't optimize for it, because what I don't want to happen is you see 40% now, you're like, yeah, I'm crushing it. In 1 month, you see 20% because the marketing funnel opened a little bit, and oh, now I suck.
Yeah.
Because when you're selling right now, all you have is this. It's your mindset, right? You're like Kobe Bryant. The thing is, Kobe Bryant measured himself on the points, but the variables, they're static. Your variables. So optimize for the right variable. Your variable is money that you're making, the sales, as long as the number of calls didn't change.
Okay.
Right? Like it's not a good measure of your performance because you don't know. Yeah. But it's good. Dude, you're 40%. It's very good. But yeah, just don't have it as, close to heart, because it's easy to manipulate.
Got it. Thank you, Chris.
Cool. But good job. 40% is very good. What's next? Anything? Objection handling, role plays. Richard.
Just got a question on the, oh shit, I've just completely lost my train of thought. Okay. Oh yeah, you obviously, you want to get as many problems as possible, or at least 2 to 3 as far as the training goes, which makes sense. I was just on a question of what actually a problem is. So for example, I'm in digital marketing, and so the ultimate general problem that my potential clients have is they don't get enough generally leads, sales, revenue, anything around that.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking, what is an additional problem to that? And generally what I hear in the past week at least has been, I just, when I'm probing a bit more, the problems, and I just didn't know whether these are actual problems, but it generally became, well, I don't, the leads aren't good because the marketing's ineffective, and that's, and the reason I haven't solved that is because of time or knowledge or both. So I was just trying to wrap my head around, is that part about the time and the knowledge? Are they 2 separate problems, or are they just subparts of the problem, which is not enough leads or shit marketing?
No, 2 separate problems, but you want to probe into each one. Walk me back. When you say you don't know how to get more leads, how do you mean? Like you don't know channel wise, or what do you mean exactly?
Mm,
So something more concrete, it would be, I don't know how to expand to other channels.
okay.
Or referrals have gotten stagnant, or they're not predictable.
Right. Okay.
You want to get metrics behind that, because leads, it's easy. Okay, how many leads are you getting?
Mm.
5. How many leads do you want to, can you handle in terms of your capacity? 20. Okay,
Mm.
what has been slowing you down from getting to 20?
And do you ask that like pretty much all in the same, like, okay, your leads are 5, how many do you want to get to?
Yeah.
That's still in the problem stage.
You're in the problem stage. You're just getting
Yeah.
the goal, a metric,
Yeah.
logistical goal.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, what has been slowing you down? I don't know how to get there. How long have you been trying to get to 20 leads? We've been trying to figure this out for 3 months. Okay, so you've been trying to, figure things out for 3 months. Has that had an impact on your ability to grow the business?
Mm.
Yes. In what way though? Well, the revenue is stagnant. That's the problem.
Yeah.
In
And
terms
then,
of
like,
go for it.
okay. On that too, one of the calls I had this week, she literally just from the get-go pretty much just gave me her to-do list. Like that consists of 6 things. And it was more of a to-do list all based from not having enough time, not having enough know-how.
Oh yeah. And Sarah, we'll talk to you. We'll get into that for sure. The thing is, a lot of times, some things are problems, some are symptoms of problems. So walk me back. What are you, respect your process. Walk me back. What are you currently doing to get leads?
Right. Okay, that's cool. So, yeah, okay. Yeah, because some of them, they were more a task list, but then, yeah, they
I
were
don't
the
care about the
symptoms of,
task list. I don't
yeah,
good.
yeah, but they were
I want
symptoms
Facebook
of.
leads. I want to expand on TikTok. I need to watch John Wick 4. I need to, whoa. Walk me back. So what are you currently doing to generate more leads? That's the overarching goal.
Yeah.
You can summarize it. So if they give you 5 different to-do lists, okay, so overall, it sounds like you're looking for more leads. Yes. Okay. What are you currently doing to generate more leads? All the other things in the bin. We're gonna rediscover them. But that's where we have to kind of like pump on the brakes so we can get control. Otherwise, we'll start talking about pixels and then organic and then SEO. And these are all shovels. We don't care about the shovel. We care about the treasure.
Yep. Yeah, cool. That makes sense.
Awesome. Cool.
Thank you.
Great questions. Ali.
Hello, Chris.
Crushing it, dude.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Just the beginning.
That's the beginning.
Yeah. How do I like follow up the no-shows and people that have been canceled? Because when I call them again, like for 1 week or 2 weeks, and just ask them to, reschedule a new call, don't show up again. So how should I go through the, situation questions again and problem awareness, or how should I?
No, so you call them and you say, "Hey, Ali, it looks like we were scheduled last Tuesday, but for whatever reason you didn't show up. Probably a mix-up on our end. But what happened there? Oh, I got busy. Blah 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 blah. Okay, now I should probably ask: have you found what you're looking for, or are you still looking to whatever they want to do?" And if they confirm, like you have to get confirmation there. Oh yeah, I'm still looking. Okay, and do you know what you're looking for specifically out of implementing X? Light probing some situation, if it's warranties it, you don't have to, some connecting. Okay, well, would it be appropriate to put some time on the calendar to have a discussion around this? Yes, lock them in. Now, Ali, and I'm sure you're busy. Are you good to make X work this time around? And get another confirmation there. Okay. Is there any reason that you're not gonna be able to join that one? Just so I'm aware.
And then
Yep.
you get them to like confirm it, right?
Yeah, get them to confirm and try not to book them when they no show. You call them, try to book them in the next day or two.
Hmm.
Like, what's your time frame? Would it be appropriate to connect in the next day or two? So lock in that time frame when it comes to the no show. Because the more you push it, the higher the chances they no show.
Yeah, for sure. And old leads, do you consider that 1 month of old leads is old leads, or what?
No, they're good leads.
Yeah, so it's the same.
Yeah.
You know, call them. It looks like have been, okay.
Yeah, it looks like you requested for some information about a month ago, about X and Y and Z. What was it that attracted your attention? That's
Right.
it.
Yeah. And I got a objection yesterday, and they said, why should I go with you guys rather than go with the other guys that are much cheaper and have the same product as you? It was kind of a good question, but I did.
Where did it happen? At the end?
Yeah, at the end.
Yeah. So yeah, that's not a problem, and you don't have to. But help me understand, what was it that attracted your attention around what Jeremy had to say in the first place?
Mm.
Put it back on them. Like, there's nothing magical that you will say there that's gonna say, oh yeah, you're right, let me buy. There's nothing magical, because it's a trap. They want you to start selling so they can come up with another objection.
Yeah. Because we went through the, payment options and so on, and then it said,
Not the payment options, though. It's not a payment, it's a trust objection. So this comes from, it comes from upstream. It's typically because we didn't go deep enough from them. In the top of solution awareness, make sure that you're doing that. So before we start discussing, have you been out there looking for other solutions so you can fix X and Y and Z? Yes, I looked at cheap option number one. Okay, may I ask, how come they didn't choose these guys in the first place? And why didn't you move forward with them? Yeah, I just thought I found Ali interesting. Okay, what was it about Ali, though, that caused you not to move forward with those guys? Just so I'm clear here. And you have to have that conversation there, because that's what happens at the end.
Okay, so this is a trust objection, right?
Yeah. And the other thing is, so step number one is, well, I can sit here and tell you that we're X and Y and Z, but you tell me, what was it that attracted your attention when it comes to us and our methodology in the first place? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so besides, this and this and this, would you move forward with the program? Yes. Why? And then you start not negotiating with them, but if they still have resistance, well, I guess you tell me, Ali, is it more risky for you to go with kind of like the cheapest available option and risk getting subpar results? Or is it more risky for you to come up with the additional X amount and put yourself in the best possible position to achieve X, just like our other clients are doing? Like, which is more risky in your mind? Because I'm going to tell you, like, if we're looking for the cheapest option, I'm not your guy.
Okay.
And this is how you test if it's a shit test or not. Because typically they just say that to see how you react, essentially. It's a trust, more of a trust objection. Why should we go with you?
Okay. Thank you. He got frozen.
Oh,
Uh,
am I still here?
Did we lose Chris?
Yeah, I think we lost Chris.
It's unfortunate.
All right, Joel, you're in charge. Take it away.
10:03, time's up.
He's back.
I think I backed out. Yeah, something.
Oh, there you are.
Sweet. Who's next? Ali, did that help? Okay, cool. Joe.
Hey, Chris. Yeah, I was hoping to ask a quick question and then
Yeah.
a little bit of a consequence role
Yeah.
play. Yeah, I was just curious. I think I heard Jeremy speaking about that you don't really want to come off as too excited or
Yeah.
motivated. I was just wondering if that applies to fitness as well.
It does. So we walk a fine line, right? It's not about being completely stoic and apathetic and we don't care about nothing. But it's not car salesman. So what we want to do is modulate kind of like our stance depending on the states that we're in. In the beginning, very cool as a how do they call it? Cool as a cucumber, like very chill, especially in the early stages. Later on, in the solution awareness, because we want to get them excited. Okay, so let's say we were able to give you the right coaching, the meal plans, the X and Y and Z. What would that do for you? Because going from 200 to 150 isn't a small deal. So what would that do for you? Okay, and you being able to shed off that weight, pump up those shoulders. What would that do for you? Maybe personally, though. Okay, and you're looking in the mirror, like you're seeing a big buff Joe, fitting in those, Under Armour t-shirts. How does it feel? So you modulate it. You're getting more excited at the right stages, and especially in the solution awareness, and you pull it back and more empathetic towards consequence.
Okay, cool. And yeah, I heard Jeremy bring up some stuff about fitness with heart attacks and strokes. Seems like it could be a little offensive, but I was hoping to give it a try.
Yeah.
Okay. So Chris, with what you're doing right now, and you can be real with me, how close do you feel you are to losing that 50 pounds, creating that body that you're talking about, and becoming that person all on your own, like without any additional help?
I'm not very close.
May I ask why?
Yeah, because I've been trying after my wife's pregnancy. I've gained too much weight, and just going at the gym, like it ain't cutting it.
Okay, gotcha. And Chris, I mean, I don't want to offend you because I've enjoyed our conversation so far, but what happens if you don't make a change? The weight stays on, and you're not able to keep up with your kids and protect your long-term health for the next 4, 8, 12 months.
I guess I'll still be out of shape.
And are you willing to settle for that?
No.
Okay. And whose choice is it if we settle or not?
What could be the ramifications because you didn't get a visual thing there? Like
What would be the ramifications?
he didn't give you any consequences. Well, I'll stay fat. Okay. Well, what would be the ramifications if you stay exactly where you are at your current weight and you still have challenges around exercising and blah, blah, blah?
Yeah.
Something more concrete, something more visual.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, what would be the ramifications if you didn't lose this weight and you stayed where you are and you felt like you were fat?
Yeah. I guess I'll still won't be able to kind of like bend down to pick up my son and run at his soccer games. So yeah, no, I want to make a change.
Okay, so it's important for you to make these changes so you can start to keep up with your kid and get the result that you're after. Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess so you do want to change the situation and start losing the weight, or you might just keep keep the weight on or start gaining the weight and hoping you don't have a heart attack or a stroke. I kind of messed that up, but let's
Okay,
see.
redo it.
Yeah. So are you willing to settle for that? No. Okay. Well, whose choice is it if you settle?
It's fine.
So do you want to change your situation and start losing the weight, start getting these results so you can get the more energy and be able to keep up with your kids? Or, you're just going to stay where you're at, possibly keep gaining weight and just hoping that you don't have a heart attack or a stroke?
No, I want to change that. More empathetic.
Yeah. More empathetic.
Yeah.
Okay.
So do you want to, or is it important for you to make a change so you can get in shape, play with your son and have all those things? Or where did you do the transition? Just so I do the right language. What's the second part of that question?
Do you want to change the situation, start losing so you can, or just keep gaining weight and
Right.
hope?
Okay. So, or just keep gaining weight, keep adding fat to your frame and risk having a heart attack.
Okay.
Like you're saying it just as if it's coming up to you right then and there, right? Or I don't know, risk having a heart attack.
Yeah. Gotcha. Less scripted. Okay. And I mean, so why do this now versus, pushing this down the road like a lot of people do?
Why do this now though? Like, why not make a change now rather than just keep pushing it back like other people do with their fitness and face the consequences?
Okay. Yeah. And I mean, what's preventing you from changing your situation now though?
No, you don't do that there.
Okay.
So that's, you don't want to have 3 qualifying questions because these are 3 back to back. So just use one.
Okay.
So you're either going to do what happens if, okay, so it's important for you to make a change. What makes it important for you now though? Why not kick the can down the road? Every new diet starts on a Monday, right? So why not kick it down the road like most people do? Okay. And you can roll into the transition there, or so how important is it to blah, 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 blah. And you can do, that's the last qualifying question. You can move on from there, but not what's preventing you. This is something that you can do like in the solution awareness phase up top.
Okay. Continue. And then jump into the presentation. Okay. Based on this discussion, I feel like, okay. Right on. Thank you, Chris.
Sweet. Let's get those cells. Joseph.
Hey, Chris. Yeah, I having a lot of trouble with kind of a situation and problem awareness. I think I saw Jeremy, I think in the training or something like that, talk about the 5 stages of awareness. And I get a lot of people in that first kind of unsure of what's going on. So it's difficult to pull out problems and to probe and clarify, because I get a lot of people who downplay the problems, and they're like, well, yeah, this is a problem, but it's not that big of a deal. And I have trouble pulling out pain, and it just throws off the rest of the conversation, right? It throws off the consequence, throws off everything, because I can't pull out enough pain. And a lot of people just say, I just want to see what you have. I just want to see the platform. Just show me what you have. So I kind of,
and I could show you the platform, but for me, it's important for the platform to actually help you. So what were you hoping to get out of a potential new platform? Just so I understand.
Yeah, I've only been in this role for about a year, and I'm just looking for to see the platform. I'm just looking to see what you guys have.
What were you hoping to get out of the platform though?
Something to help us with registration and fundraising.
So what are you currently doing for registrations?
We have this platform over here that that the organization has had, but I haven't used before.
Okay, well, it can't be all bad. So I guess, have you started using it?
Well, I came on after our event last year, so I haven't had a chance to use it yet, and the person who used it for isn't here anymore.
Okay. Well, have you played
Dumbbells
around
you're
with
using
it?
or a
Or,
waist?
yeah, well, have you started like have you gotten onboarded into the software? Have you started using it at all, or you haven't?
I haven't used it at all
Okay.
because it's
Well,
just
if you
for.
haven't, if you
it's-
haven't used the platform, what got you looking at a possibly new one?
Oh, well, you called me.
I did, but I guess what was it that I said that possibly resonated?
Well, what you had to say was pretty
I
interesting.
know you're a
and-
busy guy, so I'm not that cool. So probably I said something, right?
Yeah, you know, said that you had an interesting platform that would, fit well for the event that this organization does. So I thought I'd
Yeah, I mean
have the offer.
possibly. But what have you seen from the past event? I know you weren't there, but what have you heard possibly that making a switch would be beneficial?
I heard they had some trouble with registrations and things like that, but I don't know
Trouble
exactly.
in what way?
I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. May I ask who mentioned to you that you guys had trouble?
It's the lady that helps us manage volunteers and things like that for some events.
Okay. So walk me through, if you don't mind, like what's the typical decision-making process that the company follows when it comes to managing your attendees and donors?
I'm not 100% sure. I think, I would need to talk to the executive director to get her approval on something like this. But
Okay.
I'm still kind of new and I'm still trying to figure this stuff out.
Right. May I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Because the last thing I want is just to dump a bunch of information at you, boring you out and getting you to get to sleep earlier today. So why don't we do this? What we can do is we can find some time, the three of us, me, you, and the blah, blah, and we can sit down, see if making a switch is even worth to you guys right now, because you might be better off with your current tool. And if it makes sense, we can then talk about possible next steps. Now, would that help you?
Yeah, sure. That would help if I could. Yeah, I'll see if I can get, her to agree to.
Okay.
something
Yeah, like
this.
what would be your timeline and you discussing with her, just to make sure I make myself available as well?
I'll see if I can talk to her today, or I'll see if I can talk to her today or in the next couple of days to see what her schedule's like.
Okay, that's not a problem. Would it help you if I also reached out to her? Because I don't want just to send you there, just to help you out.
Sure, that could be appropriate.
Okay, what would be the best email or phone number I can use so I can reach out to her? So we're on the same team here. Just let her know.
Yeah. So it's here. It's this phone number. So I guess what you're saying here is it's about trying to get to a different person if this person is squirrely and unsure about everything.
Yeah. Because you're not gonna sell them. Like, what are you? They cannot make a decision. They're new.
Yeah.
Like that person, God bless their heart, is of no use to me.
Yeah. Understood. And in that situation, some of these nonprofits that I work with are really are tiny, one or two paid staff, maybe. So maybe that person is the decision maker and there's no one else to go to. And
if that person is the decision maker, you're not gonna you can dig around the problem just like I did, which I got something. They noticed low attendees.
Right.
What I could have done there. Now that person was new and we found a decision maker, another decision maker. Now this is only me. Okay, but when you say you had low attendee numbers, walk me through, like, what was your expectation? Okay, and what do you feel kept you from achieving those numbers? Because our clients typically do.
Yeah.
So I want to see what was the disconnect between them hitting targets and them staying exactly where they are.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, cool.
And stretch the gap, and you can take it to a third call and send her book a follow-up without presenting, send her some infos to make her more problem aware, and then present on the next one. Because you want to move her through. Someone is unaware, okay, let's move her through the stages. Unaware, problem aware, solution aware, offer aware, solution aware, product aware, offer aware. So if they're completely unaware, with your questions, we can take them to become problem aware, and then we can book another meeting, send her some content in between, and make her solution aware. But they're not gonna know price. They're not gonna know the knobs and the jiggles and the thank you pages, but they're gonna know the mechanism, how we help them towards where they can go. That's what this content here would do between your two calls.
Yeah. Okay.
So you walk them through that funnel.
Yeah. Okay. That
Are you
sounds
with
good.
me?
Yeah, I am. Sorry, I got a crazy kid.
No, you're good. You're good.
I gotta jump, but thank you.
Crazy kids are good.
Yeah. See you guys.
Andrew.
Hey, so this is kind of Joel's conversation reminded me a little bit of this, but I have been having some people, when I ask the consequence question, just basically tell me that they like refuse to think about the consequences of what might happen. And so I guess, like, what do you do in that situation where someone's like, oh, like, I'm not gonna let that happen, and they just kind of put it off?
And I don't question your tenacity at all, Sarah. My concern is if we don't wrestle with failure, we cannot run away from it. So walk me through, if you thought about it, what would be the ramifications of you not being able to, shed that weight so you can show up in your family as you want to show up.
Okay, that was easy enough.
Yeah. And the reason I'm asking it, Sarah, is, us people, we are funny creatures, right? We run way faster away from pain than towards pleasure. So we can talk about, the fit Sarah all day, but me as a coach, I have to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. So what are we running away from?
Thank you.
Does that help?
Yeah.
Sweet. Anything else, ladies and gents?
Quick question. Has the portal been updated yet?
I don't believe so. I need to double check, but I haven't checked.
Yeah.
Have to double check.
All good.
It should happen, but I don't think so yet.
No worries.
Anything else? Sweet. Well, that's pretty much all I had for you as well. Good. I think it was a good one. You have the sheet. I'm just gonna drop it in again in case someone didn't grab it, but I'll come up with something more formalized and send it out. Other than that, enjoy your Sunday. I'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Have a good one,
Can
guys.
can you shoot me the recording of last week's call?
Yeah, I will.
Thanks.
Thank you, Chris.